Today we are going to be learning how to solve two-step equations using the same technique as last time, showing your work in a table. So the goal today is how do I solve a two-step equation to get a variable alone? And we're going to be using, again, this order of operations thing where it shows the order of operations. We go down when we're simplifying, we go up when we're solving. And this is going to be a lot more important today because we're going to be working with two-step equations. So I'll show you how we're going to use it in just a second. So here is our first problem. Okay, 12 equals 4 plus negative 2n. All right. So the first thing we have to do here is think about what's going on with n, because there are two different numbers that we're going to have to get rid of here. We're going to have to get rid of this negative 2, and we're going to have to get rid of the 4, because the goal is to get n by itself. But the order matters, right? Order of operations is something that we're always obligated to follow when we do math, but in this case, we're solving. Basically, here's what happened. Using the order of operations, n got multiplied by negative 2, okay, because multiplication happens before addition, then we added 4. Well, we're trying to remove these, which means we need to do them in the opposite order. So when we solve, we start at the bottom and we work our way up, undoing everything with inverse operations. So because this 4 is being added to n and this negative 2 is being multiplied by n, we need to make sure that we start at the bottom and we deal with addition and subtraction first. So we have to deal with this plus 4 first. So the very first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this plus 4, and the way I'm going to do that is to subtract 4 from both sides. So it's going to look like this. First thing I'm going to do is actually just copy the whole equation down, leaving some space, and then I'm going to use a different color to show that I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides of the equal sign, once from the left, once from the right. Okay, 12 minus 4, I'm going to simplify that, it's 8. Now I'm going to simplify the right-hand side and combine like terms. So I have this positive 4 and this negative 4 that cancel. But this whole thing, that 2n, I need to bring down. So I'm going to bring down the equal sign. I'm simplifying over here by canceling those out, and I have negative 2 times n. So that's the first step. How did I do that? Well, simplify. Okay, simplify both sides. Okay. So we dealt with the addition and subtraction. We dealt with that plus 4. Now I still have this times negative 2 that I need to deal with. So this is where I'm working backwards because I'm solving. I deal with multiplication and division using inverses. Remember, that is a multiplication. And so what I'm going to need to do next is get rid of this times negative 2. And the way we get rid of a times negative 2 is I'm going to divide by negative 2 on both sides, okay? So now I show that. I'm going to take the left and divide by negative 2, and I'm going to take the right and divide by negative 2. Now I simplify each side. And I'm just going to say simplify both. That just means figure out what it equals in this case, because we're just trying to make everything as simple as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and type that into a calculator or use my knowledge of negative numbers. 8 divided by negative 2 is negative 4. Equal sign drops. These cancel because times negative 2 and divided by negative 2 are inverse operations, but that n still drops down. Excuse me. So we have n equals negative 4. N is alone, so we're done. And that means that if I were to replace this with a negative 4, this equation would be true. 4 plus negative 2 times negative 4 is 12. And we could check that, but I'm not going to do it at this point. Okay, that's example 1. Let's try another. All right, n divided by 3 minus 7 equals negative 3. Here's my variable. I'm going to have to get rid of the divided by 3. I'm also going to have to get rid of the minus 7. Order matters. When we solve, we do order of operations in reverse. So I'm going to start down here and deal with any addition or subtraction on the same side of my equal sign as the variable. And I see this minus 7. So my first step here is going to be to do the inverse of -7. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. That's going to be my first step. So I'm going to copy my equation, leaving some room. And then I'll use a different color to show adding 7 to both sides. So +7 on the left, +7 on the right. Whatever you do on one side, you have to do on the other. Next, I simplify both sides. Okay, simplify both sides. So that just means combine like terms where you can. -7 and +7 cancel. And so I'm left with just n divided by 3. That whole thing drops down. Equal sign drops down. -3 + 7 is 4. Okay? We're not done because the point is to get n alone. N is still hanging out here with this divided by 3, right? So I'm on this step now, working backwards as I solve. And the inverse of divided by 3 is times 3. And so that's going to be my next step. And I'm just going to say times 3 on both. So I'm going to copy my equation down, leaving a little space. I'm going to pull a different color, and I'm going to multiply by 3 on the left, multiply by 3 on the right. Now simplify both sides, combining like terms where I can. So to simplify here, divided by 3 and times 3 are inverse operations. They cancel. The n drops, the equal sign drops. 4 times 3 is 12. N equals 12. And that makes sense because if I do 12 divided by 3 minus 7, right? If I replace this with 12, 12 divided by 3 is 4. 4 minus 7 is -3. So it checks out. We're just going to do 2 more examples and then you'll try some on your own. Okay, -9 plus 4 times n equals -1. Here's my n. Okay, it's on this side of the equal sign. So I know I have to get rid of this times 4, and I also have to get rid of this plus -9. That's a bit tricky, you'll remember from last time. So I'm going to start, because I'm solving, by dealing with any addition or subtraction. This -9 is being added to n. So I have 2 choices here. I can subtract the -9. Okay, I can subtract the -9 from both sides, or I can just add 9 to both sides. Remember, these are the same, right? Minus a -9 is the same thing as plus a 9. I prefer this. It's just so much easier. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. Okay? So I'm going to copy my entire equation. -9 plus 4n. I'm going to leave a little space equals -1. And I'm going to go ahead and add 9 to both sides. Plus 9, plus 9. Now I simplify both sides. So I'm going to combine my like terms. -9 and +9 cancels. They're inverse operations. So I'm left with 4 times n equals, use a calculator if you're not confident with these negative numbers, but -1 plus 9 is 8. Okay. So we got rid of the -9. Now we have to get rid of this times 4. So I'm on this step. The inverse of times 4 is to divide by 4. So I'm going to take my entire equation and I'm going to divide by 4 on the left, divide by 4 on the right, and my explanation here is divide by 4 on both sides. Now we simplify. Okay, we're going to now simplify both sides. So to do that, 4n divided by 4, well, these cancel. Times 4 divided by 4, inverse operations. So we're just left with n equals 8 divided by 4 is 2. So that means that if I were to do -9 plus 4 times 2, I would get -1, which makes sense because this is -9 plus 8, and that does equal -1. One more. 6 equals 12 plus n divided by 5. Here's my variable. I need to get it alone, so I'm going to have to get rid of the divided by 5, and I'm going to have to get rid of this plus 12. Always when we're solving, you start with addition and subtraction and remove that first. So the way I'm going to get rid of this plus 12, the inverse of plus 12 is minus 12. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides of the equal sign. So I'm going to copy my equation, leave some space, and I'm going to grab a different color, and I'm going to go ahead and subtract 12 from both sides. So minus 12 on the left, minus 12 on the right, and now we simplify both sides. So on the left, all I have to do is combine these like terms together. 6 minus 12 is negative 6. Don't be afraid to use the calculator if you need to. Equal sign drops down, and then these like terms, 12 and negative 12, make 0. They cancel. And so this I have to bring down, n divided by 5. All right, here's my variable. All I need to get rid of now is this divided by 5. So I'm on this step. And the inverse of dividing by 5 is going to be multiplying by 5. So I'm going to multiply by 5 on both sides. So I'm going to copy my whole equation down. And then I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 5 on the right. I'm putting it over here. I don't know why. I just did it that way. And now I'm going to go ahead and simplify both sides. Now you have to be a little careful here with these negatives because this is times negative 6, right? It's not a minus 6. 5 times 6 is 30, so 5 times negative 6 is going to be negative 30. Divided by 5 and times 5 are inverse operations. They cancel, and we're left with n equals negative 30, which means that if I take 12 plus negative 30 divided by 5, I should get 6 as my answer. This equals negative 6, so it works because 12 plus negative 6 does in fact equal 6. So what I'd like you to do now is I have these 4 problems, and I would like for you to try them on your own, and I want you on your own paper to practice showing your work. So you can see here we have our independent practice problems, and first make sure you do show all your work on your own paper. This might take you 10 or 15 minutes, that's okay. You're trying them on your own, and then when you're done, you'll submit your answer and then keep watching to see if you got them right. So go ahead right now and try these problems on your own. So to go over these answers, I'm going to do it using a Desmos activity because you may be doing something similar, and I want you to see how it works. So this was problem 1, 4x plus 2 equals 14. And in Desmos, what this activity does is it checks to make sure that any equation you type in here is equivalent to this top equation. So I could do anything to it. Like, here's my original equation. I could subtract 45 from both sides. It's going to tell me I'm correct because I did the same thing on both sides, which means this equation is equivalent to this. Subtracting 45 doesn't get me closer to my answer, but I just wanted to show you that any equivalent equation you put, it will give you credit for. Our goal is to get closer and closer to the correct answer. So I'm just copying and pasting. I can see here that I have to get rid of the times 4 and the plus 2. We start with addition, and so the inverse of plus 2 is subtract 2. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And then you can see it's telling me it's correct because this is equivalent to this, but I need to make progress on solving. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to subtract 2 from the left, and I'm going to subtract 2 from the right. I have an equivalent equation. Now I'm going to simplify both sides. Combine my like terms. These cancel, so I'm left with 4x, drop my equal sign, and 14 minus 2 is 12. It's showing me you made an equivalent equation. X is still not alone. I have to get rid of this times 4, and the way I'm going to do that is to divide by 4 on both sides. So I find it easier to just copy and paste it and then do whatever I said I was going to do. So I'm going to hit divide by 4 on the left, divide by 4 on the right. Lastly, I'm going to simplify both sides. Times 4 divided by 4 cancels, so I have x equals 3. Now that x is alone, I know that I have my final answer, and I can check it by typing it in here, hitting check my work, and it'll tell you if you're right or not. So that was number 2. If you got x equals 3, put a big smiley face on your paper, okay? Let's look at number 2. 17 equals 5 minus 1x. I'm going to go through this one pretty quick. So first thing I need to do is notice that x is being multiplied by -1. That's super, super tricky. And then there's this 5 that I have to get rid of. Remember, the negative belongs to the 1. The 5 is positive. So the first thing I have to do here is actually subtract 5 from both sides, okay? Because that's a positive 5. If I want it to go away, I have to put a negative 5. It's super tricky. So I'm going to copy and paste it and then subtract 5 from both sides. Now I simplify. 17 minus 5 is 12. This positive 5 and this negative 5 cancel, and I'm left with negative 1x. Okay, I got that by simplifying both sides. Lastly, I have to get rid of this times negative 1. So I'm going to do that by dividing both sides by negative 1. 12 divided by negative 1 is negative 12. And then this negative 1 divided by negative 1 cancels, and I'm left with 12 equals x. We got that by simplifying both sides. So the correct answer here is negative 12. Number 3, first step here, deal with addition and subtraction, add 1 to both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, plus 1 on the left, plus 1 on the right. Now I simplify. These cancel, so I'm left with x divided by 10 equals, and there's a calculator tool here, so you can always pull that up. If you're not sure, you know, what negative 5 plus 1 is, you can always type it in and it'll tell you it's negative 4. So negative 4. Then I have to get rid of this divided by 10. I'm going to copy and paste it, and I need to multiply by 10. Whoops. On both sides. Okay, I built an equivalent equation. I multiply by 10 on both sides. Now I simplify, these cancel, x equals negative 4 times 10 is negative 40. So if you got that, excellent job. Last one. 12 equals 7 plus n divided by 4. First thing I have to do is get rid of numbers that are added or subtracted to n, which is this plus 7 over here. It's a positive 7, so I'm going to need to subtract 7 from both sides. Copy my equation, paste it in, minus 7 on the left, minus 7 on the right. It doesn't think that's correct. It is. I messed up somewhere, but this is correct. So now I simplify. 12 minus 7 is 5. These cancel, and so we have n divided by 4. Simplify both sides. These x's are distracting, but this is correct. Okay. Next step is to get rid of the divided by 4, and we're going to do that by multiplying by 4. So I'm going to multiply by 4 on the left, multiply by 4 on the right. So multiply by 4, because that's how we're going to get rid of this divided by 4. 5 times 4 is 20. These cancel. N equals 20 is the correct answer. And it's hard not to doubt myself, but so I'm going to check. If n is 20, 7 plus 20 divided by 4 is 5. And 7 plus 5 does equal 12. Okay, so n equals 20.